As news spread that Jayme Closs was alive and safe,
88 days of holding on to the faith that our authorities would never give up, and they certainly did not.
almost immediately, thoughts turned to another celebrated case.
When we hear that, a Jayme has been found, how wonderful, what another miracle.
Ed Smart knows the anguish of waiting for a child to come home.
Night after night, you just want to wake up, and this is a bad dream, and it's going away.
It was 2002 when Ed's 14-year-old daughter, Elizabeth Smart, was snatched from her Utah bedroom. It was one of the most publicized and memorable child abductions.
We have not given up on you, Elizabeth. We're going to find you.
It took 9 months of searching and sorrow before the Smart family could celebrate Elizabeth's safe return.
They took me to this room, and when they opened the door and she was there, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
Elizabeth had been abducted by this man, Brian David Mitchell, whom the Smarts briefly hired to do work in their home. Mitchell and his wife held Elizabeth captive, hiding and disguised. These stories are indelible, and while rare, still too frequent for those involved. There was the case of J Paul Getty III, the grandson of oil tycoon J Paul Getty, who was kidnapped in 1973 at the age of 16. The story was told in the movie All the Money in the World.
If I start paying ransoms, I'll have 14 kidnapped grandchildren.
Held by the mafia in Italy, his ear was chopped off. Eventually, a ransom was paid, and he was released 5 months later. Getty has since died.
Mom, Dad, I'm okay. I just hope that you'll do what they say, Dad, and just do it quickly.
In 1974, 19-year-old newspaper heir Patty Hearst was kidnapped by the California radical terrorist group, the Symbionese Liberation Army.
I have chosen to stay and fight.
A year and a half later, after being involved in a bank robbery, she was found during an FBI raid. Hearst served a 2-year prison sentence as questions swirled about whether she had willingly committed violent acts.
I'm a soldier in the People's Army.
Or was brainwashed.
I think about, what it was that I had to do in order to survive. It's amazing what people can do to you.
Today, she is a wife, mother, and grandmother. Another missing child made news in 1991. 11-year-old Jaycee Dugard was abducted on her way to school in California. She was hidden for nearly 2 decades by a couple, Philip and Nancy Garrido. Philip Garrido was a registered sex offender. Jaycee lived behind a series of fences and tents, even giving birth to 2 children fathered by her abductor in this ramshackle backyard compound. Dugard was found when she was 29 after a parole officer noticed Garrido acting strangely. She now heads a foundation for families in trauma. Just today, she issued a message to Jayme Closs, writing, "The road ahead will have many ups and downs. Allow yourself to grieve and move forward."
October 6, 2002 was a Sunday. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Sean was bored and asked if he could go out to play. He wanted to ride his bike to his friend's house, something that we had let him do, hundreds, maybe thousands of times before.
To me, he was just my sweet little boy.
The parents of Sean Hornbeck also know the pain of waiting after a child goes missing. Sean was 11 when he vanished in Missouri in 2002. It would take 4.5 years before Sean's parents learned what happened.
I didn't really know it was behind me. Next thing you know, I was in the ditch. That's when he picked me up, tied my hands behind my back, and put me in the truck. He had the gun. He had the power.
A random stranger, a child predator named Mike Devlin, abducted Sean.
The thing that sticks out the most is he said you were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Sean's nightmare came to an end when Devlin kidnapped another boy, this time from a school bus stop. A witness helped law enforcement track down the vehicle Devlin drove, which led them to find both boys at Devlin's apartment. And then, the parents who didn't know if they'd ever see their son again laid eyes on Sean.
And it was just the most wonderful feeling that you could have.
And then it was like the waterworks were just on. There was no off button on it. It's like a water main broke.
Since then, Sean has mostly stayed out of the spotlight. He was last reported to be working in a factory with hopes of obtaining a college degree in criminal law. Of course, it's too soon to know how Jayme Closs will now move on. Unlike these other cases, her parents will not be there to welcome her home.
I think it's going to be hard not having her parents there, but making the connections she can and finding the love and support from the community.
Ed Smart's daughter Elizabeth has rebuilt her life. She's now married with children. Speaking with Gail King this past September, Elizabeth Smart said part of her recovery involved letting go.
I don't feel that I could have moved forward in my life had I still been holding on to hate and anger inside me, because that would still be taking up a percentage of my soul.
And just hours after Jayme was found, Elizabeth had this advice for her.
There is no going back to who she was before she was kidnapped. It's not possible. It took me years to realize that I would never go back to being who I was before I was kidnapped. I'd say, start looking for your new normal, because you can't go back to the old normal. That's gone.